I'm going to give you the national statement of The World Can't Wait, which was released 4 days ago. Break the silence, no more war on Syria or beyond, stop the airstrikes and the targeted killings now. The devastating events in Paris that have left 129 people dead are a horror. Ordinary people massacred while simply living their daily lives. This came a little more than a month after France, part of the US-led coalition, carried out dozens of airstrikes on Syria. This coalition had previously launched 3,000 airstrikes over Syria, massacring ordinary people in Syria who were simply living their daily lives. And now, in the wake of last Friday's bloodshed in Paris, this same US-led coalition, again including France, has launched even more airstrikes in Syria and Iraq. This is an escalation of the so-called war on terror, which is leading to horrors of unspeakable magnitude for people across the Middle East and beyond. In 4 years of war, more than 200,000 Syrians have been killed, and almost 12 million more have been driven from their homes. This is a country whose total population was 22 million. And this is on top of the toll of death for millions across Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, Yemen, Palestine, and beyond, and the creation of millions more refugees. And now civilians throughout the Middle East are dying, or if they're lucky enough to survive, they are roaming the continent for survival, only to be demonized and turned away by governments who are responsible for this situation. And others will talk today more about the role of these governors of the US, talking about keeping the Syrians out of our home. These people's lives are just as precious as Parisian and American lives.
That's right. That's right.
In 2001, the Bush regime launched an illegitimate invasion of Afghanistan under the rubric of the so-called war on terror. If this was really a war for empire, expanding into Iraq on the basis of outright lies, everybody knows that now. 14 years later, including 2 terms under the Democratic President Obama, the powers that be still have no just solution for this catastrophe that they created, and so the horror continues to spread. And I ask you, what basis does Obama have to pontificate about crimes against humanity when he's the commander-in-chief of an imperial military that is the modern world's worst purveyor of violence ever, responsible for almost uncountable crimes against humanity, including illegal invasions, occupations and wars, torture, death, and displacement of millions across the planet? Every move the U.S. makes only ratchets up the conflict and further endangers all of humanity. As for ISIS, the Islamic State only wishes it could inflict the kind of terror that the U.S. is able to rain down from above, using U.S. conventional airstrikes, drone strikes, and other weapons of mass destruction that have been turned against the people of the Middle East for decades. From Sinjar to Beirut, where ISIS killed 40 civilians the day before the Paris attacks, the ISIS agenda has nothing to offer humanity. They rejoice when the U.S. and other imperial powers attack the territory ISIS controls, because they hope this will bolster their legitimacy and drive civilians in those areas to support them. This is not the kind of world we want to live in. A world where U.S. and NATO forces and Islamic jihadists make war against each other, with both sides opposing the other, while each side's actions only fuel the other side. And the people of these countries are caught in the crosshairs. This is not the kind of world anyone should accept. None of that changes the fact, however, that it is our responsibility. We live here in the United States. Our responsibility is to stop the crimes of our own government, and by doing so, end this disastrous dynamic. So, in the wake of these horrific and deadly attacks in Paris, we hear the leaders of the so-called free world announcing new military escalations, more bombs, more drones, more invasions. We hear these drumbeats of patriotism and vicious, vicious bigotry against the refugees and immigrants and against Muslims everywhere. And we're being told that new levels of repression and clampdown are needed to protect our way of life and keep us safe. No. We have two demands today. One, an immediate end to all U.S. NATO airstrikes on Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Stop all U.S. NATO support also for the Saudi air attacks in Yemen. Two, an immediate stop to all U.S. targeted killing actions globally, including the drone surveillance and drone assassinations, which are all key and very active components of the secret ops, which are reportedly being carried out by the U.S. this year in 147 countries. Break the silence. Stop the crimes of your government. American lives are no more important than the lives of others. Humanity and the planet do come first. Thank you. The world can't wait.